Welcome to the I Work For Me podcast. I'm Melina Lewis, and today I am chatting to Abigail Klopper. She is, I think, going to blow our minds with her approach to life and everything she does, her creativity, and what she is kind of looking for in life, which seems to be like sucking the marrow out of it. But I'm just guessing. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce and say hello, Abigail.
Hi, and thank you for having me, Melina. So good to be here.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I always like to start off and just ask everybody, what is it that you can first remember wanting to be when you were a little girl?
I was not specific about what I wanted to be. I knew that I wanted, well, what the memory that I have is that I wanted to help people, but I didn't necessarily know what that was. And so it ranged from, well, I have a strange memory of nursing, but that was never going to happen. And then journalism, and then bizarrely, and then I don't know how this ties into helping people, but meteorology and marine biology. I didn't even live near the sea, so I don't know where that came from. So it was all, I had no clear defining vision of what I was going to do when I grew up.
Okay, well, no worries. I think most of us are in that space. So, can you maybe tell us now what it is that you do?
So I am my official title is Confidence Crusader, and I gave myself that title. And what that is I'm on a mission to help women elevate their confidence. And I do that through photography, videography, and through my online academy I've built. And I run an online academy called the Caffeinate Academy. Yeah, that's where I'm putting all of my confidence crusading energy into helping women build their personal brands.
Amazing. Now, I promise I wasn't stalking, but I've been onto Caffeinate and I kind of went through it all, and it is just a divine, amazing portal. So I really want to kind of, because we all kind of understand what a videographer and a photographer does, not to undermine it, but I think we all have a sense of that. Can you tell us more about Caffeinate, how it works, and so then how that is going to help people build their personal brands?
Yeah. So it's a membership site. So my members pay a monthly or an annual subscription fee, and they are able to log into the website and access the exclusive members area. And this is updated. The content in the members area is built on 3 pillars of personal confidence, business confidence, and creative confidence. And so that's kind of our ikigai. I don't know if you know the Japanese philosophy of ikigai, but that's our philosophy inside the academy, of the overlapping Venn diagram of personal, business, and creative confidence, and that when you work on one, it impacts the others, and vice versa. And so every month we've got a guest expert who teaches a masterclass on a topic that relates to either the business, the personal, or the creative confidence. Right. As a photographer, I like creating stock images, so flat lays and images that the members can use. So there's a new kind of batch of a new collection of stock images that they can download and use in their Instagram feeds and their online profiles and their newsletters or wherever it is that they want to use it. Mm-hmm. We've got some tech tutorials. So if they want to learn how to do Instagram reels, MailerLite, I'm a closet tech geek, and I love finding tech that helps me run my business more efficiently. I put that in the members area as a tech tutorial. And then we've got some member benefits, so exclusive discounts that have been shared exclusively for our members. And what else? We've got courses. I've created several courses, conscious confidence course, a camera confidence course, phone photography course. And so they have access to all of those courses. And then we've got the community group that we connect with every single day. I share daily content prompts for them to, if they're struggling to think about what they can communicate on their social feeds for that day, then every day there's a content prompt for them. And yeah, we're just journeying together. And the most recent iteration within the Caffeinate that I launched last week, actually, in fact, we opened the doors on Monday, is the Personal Brand Intensive. And so that's a 4-week program that I'm taking anybody through that has signed up, taking women through 12 steps of the Personal Brand Roadmap, which is one of our masterclasses within the academy, but we're fleshing it out, and I'm helping them remain accountable to their own actions. And it's all based on a personality profiling methodology. And with that methodology, helping them then create their personal brands with confidence and give them the confidence they need to really start to shine online and shine in their personal brands and in their personal space.
Wow. Well, I'm sure that is going to be amazing, because I really think that, we need more and more of that in this kind of unsettling world. Being more confident is actually, it's a huge mental health issue almost at this stage. It's something that, maybe some people get to becoming an adult, well, you kind of are forced into adulthood, and they kind of go, gosh, but I'm not very confident, and people tell themselves, oh, I'm not confident, and all that kind of stuff. And so learning to build your own confidence is actually an intense journey. So I'm sure that course is going to be fantastic and help many people. And I wanted to find out, how many people have you currently got on your membership? Is it quite a big group, or is it more?
No, it's not. It's not a big group. It is currently, we're probably at about the 80 member mark. Okay. Inside the actual academy in terms of the monthly members. Right. But people dip in and dip out as they need. So not all of them are active, and there's a lot of content there. That's one thing. It's a lot of content, and so people have to take it at their own pace. And that's the difference with this program that I'm taking people through. So I'm directing them and guiding them. Okay, now do this. Okay, now do this. Okay, tap into this. Okay, watch this. Okay, so that's the difference between the program and the membership. So, and then on the membership, on the program that I'm running right now, I've got we're a group of 16 women. Wow. So a real tight-knit group that we're doing this journey together.
Yeah, I think that's going to be fantastic. I love that kind of thing. And also you get to know your team members as well. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Very, very cool. So now maybe let's take a step back and kind of go, okay, so did you study photography and then end up in photography? And then how did you get to Caffeinate? Because it's, I'm not too sure. How did you actually make it all happen?
The journey. Yeah. So no, I don't have a qualification in photography. I'm completely self-taught. I have a degree in communications. Okay. And my majors were industrial psychology and communications, and never used that degree. Never used that degree. I suppose there are elements of it that I use now, but getting that qualification was more of doing it blindly, but without any real intention or direction. It was because I was expected. I did well at school, so I was expected to go to university, and I was expected to, get the degree and follow all the ticks of what you're meant to do. But never having any of that clarity. Like I said, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And eventually having, moved overseas after university and traveled a bit and odd jobs, and I came back to South Africa, continued with some odd jobs, it became clear to me that actually I wasn't employable. I was not destined to be employed. And through the encouragement of my now husband, I began exploring some creative endeavors, from painting, doing abstract art, to doing interior decorating. And when he and I got together, we started traveling. And my frame of reference when it came to traveling, my parents are are extremely adventurous, and they have traveled all corners of Southern Africa. And in my childhood, they took my brother and I along with them, obviously. And so my memory of our travels was always wrapped up in the photos and the videos that my dad collected over the years. And if it weren't for those photos and videos, I wouldn't have a very clear memory of my childhood, because I don't have a great memory. And so when my husband and I started traveling, for me, it was a given. Well, I have to get a camera to document this travel. That's what you do. And then I discovered, oh, well, I've actually got a bit of an eye for this. And I didn't really know what I was doing, but I could frame and I could see shots. And so I did that. And then eventually that turned into the business that I started for myself, working for myself. And I started out in wedding photography. In fact, I started out as a generalist, shooting everything, but eventually honed into wedding photography when I moved to Cape Town. And then a number of years, just as it was exploding and I was doing really well for myself, I was introduced to a particular genre of women's portrait photography. And I started practicing and testing this approach to women's portrait photography. And I started to notice how women perceive themselves is how they project themselves. And invariably, 9 times out of 10, they were apologizing before my camera even came out that they were not photogenic, and they were pointing out the things they disliked about themselves, very vocal about what they didn't like about themselves, and that they're not, they prefer to be behind the camera. They're usually the moms taking all the photos. They never actually appear in the photos. And this for me it was very sad, first of all, for me, that this was what I was hearing repeatedly. But then also it struck my curiosity. Why? Because I get what they're saying. I understand it. I have the same insecurities. Why are we like this about ourselves? Where does the confidence to say, you know what, I love being photographed, and yes, bring that camera, my time to shine. I'm so ready for it. And so I was like, well, why do some of us have it and some of us don't? Majority of women don't. And where does that come from? And what's the conditioning that happens in our psyches that it then expresses and manifests as this bad self-talk, this negative self-talk, so much so that you will confess to a complete stranger that, all these things you dislike about yourself. And then when I ask them, well, what do you like about yourself? Then they've got nothing to say. And that for me was really, really sad. And then when I started looking for the ones that were taking action, very intentional action, and they were growing their businesses, and the ones that shied away from the cameras were the ones that shied away from opportunities and shied away from putting themselves out there. And so then I went down this whole journey of researching and reading up on and learning about confidence, what it is and how we get it. I applied all of it on myself. I still have my things. It's an ongoing process, an ongoing personal development journey, but I've come a long way myself. And in the process, I want to help other women do the same. And I realized that my photography is merely a catalyst to help them gauge where they are right now with their confidence, and how, where to start on the journey of changing that narrative. So yeah, my photography is now just a tool. It's still a very useful tool, but the work is really an internal process. And so that's how the jump from a very external medium, a very visual medium, which on some level might look extremely frivolous, but is really the gateway to a much deeper journey.
Oh, yeah. That is such an interesting process. I absolutely love it. And you've made me think a lot about the conversations I have with myself, as well as, what I hear my friends say about being in front of the camera. It's so true. It's so true. I wish I could say, no, those must be just the women you've been meeting. But I think it's a kind of a standard, which is really, really scary.
Yeah.
I don't think men talk about themselves like that at all, actually.
No, it doesn't even enter into their consciousness.
Yeah, no. But it's interesting. I wonder with selfies, have things changed, do you think? So people are quite easy and ready to turn around and kind of take the selfie. People who may have kind of shied away from the camera, but now they're themselves in a shot. Do you think things might change because of that, or are people just not seeing it? They're not seeing the connection of taking a photo versus taking a selfie. It's different.
Yeah, I see quite a different, and I think there's still a lot of women who are adverse to selfies. What I notice, and I'm it's highly likely that I'm generalizing, but what I notice is that it's a generational thing. So the younger women of these days are far more comfortable, confident. They've grown up seeing themselves in photos. They've grown up with it. It is the selfie culture is it's just so normal for them. And this is an area and an aspect of the women's confidence journey that has come up for me in terms of, if we look at like Generation X, so 35 and upwards, we're the ones who struggle the most to see ourselves in photos because it's not normal. The younger women, and again, I just put it out there, I'm generalizing, but they seem to be a lot more comfortable with it. And so whether it is a selfie or it is a professional, they're far more open to it, less critical. They get a lot more practice. Like, let's just be frank, because as with anything, it comes down to practice, and the more you do it, the easier it gets. And so they tend to do it a lot more, and so therefore they get to hone their poses, the angles, the lighting, all these things, all the technical things that goes into creating a good photo that you're going to like of yourself. So they get a lot more practice. Just because of the nature of their normal form of communication. Whereas the Generation X and up, it's still an uncomfortable thing because, the most we got was those terrible school photos, and you had that one piece of hair sat like that, and and you blinked at that time, and then mom put that on the wall, and every time you have to walk down the hallway and you see that photo, oh my goodness, and that gets ingrained in your head. So the digital age has certainly changed things. You had one chance, and maybe that's what it is. I've actually, as I'm talking about this, haven't had this thought before, but maybe that's what it is, that we grew up in the film age, and that was your one chance of getting that photo, and if it wasn't perfect, you were stuck with that hair and that half blink, and that was the photo forever. Whereas now in the digital age, no, crap, delete, go again until you get the right one. So I think that's probably a big contributing factor.
Definitely. It is. I did photography for matric when you still used a darkroom, and it was very much that thing of like, you'd wait, like you see in the movies, you'd wait for that image to appear in the liquid, and you were like, and it was that, like, it was just, you had that one shot. I mean, it took like 2 hours to set up your shot.
Yeah.
So it was a much kind of, it was a beautiful process, but it was slow.
Yeah, of course.
Very much.
Yeah. And you had 36,
36 max.
And you didn't want to waste them.
Exactly. So very, very, very interesting. And I like what you say in terms of the poses. It's so interesting because I have a friend of mine, she some of her other friends rip her off about how she tilts her head whenever she's in a photo. And I was like, what do they mean? And then I couldn't help myself. I went and I checked it on Facebook, and I was like, Stru's Bob, the head tilt. And I was like, maybe she thinks that obviously gives her that look, or a photographer once said, tilt your head, it'll make you look nice, or something like that. And I was just like, okay, so a pose thing is a real thing. Like, I'm usually the clown in the photo doing like, sticking out my lips, or like pulling up my lips and something like that. And then, as everyone says, ruining the photo. So, I don't take it that seriously. But for other people, it is.
Some people do.
Very important in the photo. So
absolutely.
So it's very interesting. So anyway, I love how that has progressed from taking photos of people, which, as you say, is an external kind of assessment, to moving to like what's happening on the inside and building the brand of confidence so that you end up a woman walking around going, I'm fabulous, I'm great, I'm feeling good about myself, about my business, about my life. And I can be in a photo because it is just a reflection of how I feel on the inside. And maybe there's something, I'm just totally kind of ad-libbing pop psychology here, but maybe there's something about, well, if you're not feeling good on the inside, how are you expected to feel good on the outside? But
absolutely.
So yeah, just interesting. But I wanted to find out, so I mean, you kind of made this transition and you've got a completely new business. How do you go about telling people about this business? I mean, are you putting up ads on Google, on Facebook? How are you growing your membership? Because obviously, yes, income, you've put content, you put time. It is something that people need to pay for. How do you promote this business?
Yeah. So my first point of call is content marketing, and that's what I teach in the academy as well, and in my program is content marketing, and it's about being visible and connecting with the people who get it, who resonate with you, and who are invested in essentially your story and what you're sharing. So mine has always been organic content marketing. And I'm this year going to be, before the year is up, going into the paid advertising space. But I mean, for the last decade, it's all been just share what I create. I am a creator. And we are all creators. We all have these devices. There is seriously no excuse. So we are all creators, and it's just about allowing yourself the freedom to get creative and then share what you create. So in terms of platforms, I vlog. So I've got a YouTube channel. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn, but I'm not very active there. I really should put a lot more effort in there. But and then just showing up, constantly showing up. Making content creation and showing up part of my daily habit.
Yeah, and it's so true. I've this may be a bit of an overshare anyway, but I read, there's a Tim Ferriss book, you know, he's like that rah-rah 4-hour man week, whatever. And super impressive multimillionaire. And he had this book that he's written, and basically it's insights from different people, and he asks them a certain number of questions and they give him answers, but they're all kind of really impressive. And the one is, I think, Gary Vaynerchuk.
Vaynerchuk, yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, clearly names not so good. And he says that the thing that he notices most about people is how people spend a lot of time thinking about the 5-year plan, but yet in the day-to-day they spend like 2-3 hours sitting on social media, or you know, doing something that isn't actually going to shift their current reality in any way. And so what he says is that, you know, there's no point, like, sure, you have a vague idea of where you want to go, but like, you've got to squeeze every second out of every day and show up and make stuff happen all the time, tightening and turning and twisting and pushing forward and rolling forward every second of the day. And he says, and that's how you get things going. It's not about kind of having big lofty 5-year plans and then sitting on social media for 3 hours. And that really resonated with me, because I feel like, yeah, that is exactly what you need to do. You need to kind of constantly be showing up. And as you say, that's exactly what you're doing. So that in terms of you and your business and constantly showing up, what would you advise someone who is maybe starting a business or running a business and really struggling? How would you say, like, show up every day?
And my recent move to the countryside has been a major lesson for me in exactly this point. And my advice to that person starting out, as I am sitting here applying this very advice, is do and create what is fun for you. Don't do and create what you see other people doing, because they're in that and they're creating that. But what they enjoy and what's easy for them may not necessarily be the same for you. We are each unique. And we fall too easily into the trap of comparisonitis. Your outlet, your bring in the creative energy that just fills you with joy, and then make that part of your content creation. Don't do it because you see somebody else doing it. Do it because, step number one, you enjoy doing it. Because what I have found is that when you do something because you feel obligated to, and the comparisonitis tells you that you should be doing this, you're shoulding all over yourself and you should be doing this, people pick up on that. People pick up on the fact that, you know what, your heart isn't in on it. Your energy isn't in on it. Like there's something in there that it's misaligned and it's not resonating. And then you're just going to burn yourself out because you're committing to a creative process that isn't yours in the first place. And then you just keep perpetuating that. So you're expending twice the amount of energy to do something that you don't enjoy. So rather take a step back, make sure that your intention is first to enjoy it, and then second, to market your business, create those connections, because when you do it from that place of enjoyment, the other things come more naturally, and you've got more energy to keep creating, which then from a consistency point of view, a trust building point of view, a being visible point of view, consistency is key. You need that consistency. And so it's got to start from a place of, look, this fulfills me. And if I don't get a like, if I don't get a certain number of likes, if I don't get a certain number of comments, that's secondary. It's okay that I don't get those because I enjoyed the process of creating that thing. Do it for that before you do it for the likes, the follows, and all the business, things, the metrics that we're told that we should be following. So yeah, as esoteric as that sounds, this is what I have learned and what I continue to learn and am in the process of learning, is that when I enjoy it, the more I enjoy that creative process in whatever form, and photos and videos might not be your thing. Maybe yours is graphic design, maybe yours is painting, maybe yours is writing. Find what works for you and keep doing more of that.
And I'm gonna add, from my experience to that, and say it's not like woo woo and out there. It is not esoteric. It is 100% true. At least, okay, so for me and for you, but I'm sure that it is true for many others, in the sense that when I wrote my first book, I self-published, I put it out there, and I got caught up for a time in thinking that I needed other writers to see it and to say that it was good, and it was
acknowledge,
and acknowledge and know that I existed, and bookstores, and I got caught up in this like whole mess of trying to kind of make other people see me and see my work. And after a while, I've realized it was making me terribly, terribly miserable. Like that was not why I'd written the book. I'd written the book because I had it in me and I needed to express it and put it on paper and create it and tell the story, and which is in its own way. And it was a healing process for me as well. And it took a long time, like over a year, for me to kind of come around full circle and go, what am I doing? Like, this is making me miserable trying to get other people to see this piece of work, when that's not what this is about. This is about the enjoyment and in creating this thing and loving that. And kind of from there took a step back and kind of just also eased up on driving this forward. And then it did become easier and it became more enjoyable. I wrote other things, and so I agree with you 100%. Do it for yourself first, and then yeah, the rest will come if it is meant to be, kind of thing. And I know that's very hard to say because we do want other people
thank you.
and to acknowledge and to thumbs up, you know. But you're the first person who's got to be 150% okay with it.
Yeah.
And you don't need to be prepared to walk away and go.
Yeah, absolutely. And that having gone through the process, the creative process, that's enough of a return on your investment of time and energy, just because, well, filled now because I expressed myself in this particular form, and do that every day, share that every day, and you'll be surprised what comes from that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was, you know, if we kind of measuring ourselves against others, comparisonitis is a real disease. Have you ever had any failures in your journey and in your process in creating your businesses that stand out for you and that were a real learning? And I know some people don't want to talk about failures as failures, they talk about them as learnings, but however you'd like to frame that, something that obviously bit and then made you relook and rethink about how you move forward.
Plenty failures. Oh my goodness. I mean, so many more failures than successes. But I've come to learn, like, the perfectionists in us are like, no, we do it perfectly every time. But that's just not what this journey is about, and only the real learnings come from those failures. There's been so many that probably there's not like a single one that stands out, but examples of it would be like launching a course or launching an offer, creating a campaign and running a special, and then having 0 people sign up or 0 people buy the thing. You know, like that happened a lot. And you know what, like sitting here, I can reflect on that and recognize that the way in which I was communicating those things was what I was saying in the previous point of I was, you know, doing as I was told and doing as I see other people do, and then emulating that and then putting out. And then you end up putting a stink of desperation on all your things because, oh, people need to sign up, please sign up, you know. And then they smell that. When you're that desperate and you're like trying so hard and holding on so tight, and that you're stinking of desperation, people smell that and then they don't want to buy and they won't buy, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah. And so I've had that several times, so too many to count. And my experience on the flip side of that is that when I create to the point that I just made now about create from a place of joy and talk about the thing that you're sharing, the campaign, the offer, the launch, the special, whatever. If you talk about it from that place of, guys, I'm just so excited, like genuinely excited, not for the sale, but just for this thing that I've created, and I'm just so happy that I created it, and I know that it can help, and for that reason, I would, you know, I really want you to come in because I know how this is going to change your life, or whatever the case might be. But it was the joy and the enthusiasm around that creative process and just communicating that joy and enthusiasm rather than sign up now, but wait, that's not all. And, you know, if you sign up before 12 o'clock, you get the bonus, like that. It's so stinky. Yeah, so that's been my big learning and my many failures in that regard. Also, I suppose I defined it as a failure for a long while. But now that I am where I am, I can see how the puzzle pieces fit together. And I go down a road of, okay, let me find out what I can do with this. And so I had many pivots in my business, and that's probably both a failure, but in retrospect is also it's the route I had to go to get where I am now. But if I'd maybe been a bit more focused in my business models, in my, you know, as a creative, I'm just all over the place. If I'd been a bit more focused, then I don't know, who knows, maybe I'd be further along in my journey. But where I am now, I'm extremely grateful that I experienced all of those, and I can look back and see how the dots connected to get me to where I am now. So on the one hand, yeah, it's both a failure and it's just the journey.
Yeah, I totally agree with you in terms of, those little stepping stones that get you to where you are, and kind of going down that tangent and then swinging back. And then,
Distractions, yeah.
And as you say, without allowing yourself the exploration, you wouldn't have those experiences to kind of look back on and make either better decisions or more informed decisions kind of going forward. So yeah.
I guess if I think about those twists and turns that I took, maybe a glaring failure was not playing a bigger game earlier on. That I had a small mindset for too long. I held on to a small mindset, and I held on to comfort zones for longer than I should have. If I'd just taken more risks, more chances, believed in myself more earlier, that's probably my biggest failure.
Wow, that's very insightful, because I often think, like, you everyone tells you, oh, dream big and stuff, but it's like, it's fine to kind of talk about dreaming big. Oh, I wish I, had a house in the country, or I wish I had a speedboat, or whatever, so like, dreaming big is okay, but like, really kind of imagining yourself in that place where you want to be, and opening yourself up to a much bigger possibility is quite scary. Most of us actually don't really do that. So, I mean, how have you changed your mindset to enable that process? Have you set goals, or do you do any kind of process work in order to do that? How have you kind of, I almost think of it as like cracking open your skull so that your brain's got space to like view the world? How do you do that?
So I'm not very good. I mean, I set goals, but then my memory's so bad that I will write it in that book, and then I'll forget where I wrote them, and then 2 months down the line, what was my goal again? So I'm like, best intentions, but execution sucks with goals. So I've learned it's not my strong point. But what I do on a daily basis, it's become part of my daily habit. My morning routine is very important to me, and that involves meditating and then visualizing not only what I want to see in my future, and it's not just business, but my life, because possibly another failure was that I defined my life by the success of my business. My identity was completely wrapped up in my business. I had zero outside interests or activities or time or energy or anything, and that was not healthy. And so what shifted it was just the daily investing daily time and into connecting to the vision I have for my life, of which my business is a small part of it, one of the cogs that gets me to that life, but not just about the visual aspect of what my life looks like. And for me, that is forests, living in a cabin in a forest somewhere remote. I'm nearly there. I'm in the remote corner of the Karoo. The forest is over there on that side of those hills over there. And it's visualizing, but it's feeling it. And again, it sounds very esoteric and it's very woo-woo, and all the woo-woo coaches go down that line, but it's literally, what would that feel like? And tapping into that sense of peace. And you know what? My business is running in the background. I don't need to be like whipping myself over my back to freaking put in the hours, work hard, work long. You're only worthy if you're working long. Getting rid of those, like, no, I deserve to. And feeling what that feels like, and stepping into that future version of myself on a daily basis. And that has shifted. And it's so simple, but the consistent daily practice of it has been the shift. Pretending, like literally pretending I am that future version of me, and feeling what life feels like when I'm her.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And you're right. A lot of the kind of coaches do kind of, drive you in that direction. And it sounds so easy, but it's harder to practice it than you think. And
but it does get easier. I have, and like you said, like when you're dealing with like, well, you got to, I don't know, answer emails. I have inbox aversion. I'm not very good with my inbox, and when it's piling up and you've got to do those things. Okay, well, let's tap into future self mode. It can be it can be a challenge sometimes, but the more you do it, the more it just becomes part of who you are, and it literally is like, okay, ground, deep breath, right, we're there, we feel it. But it was a very mental exercise to start with until it became a visceral way of being. It became a body thing as opposed to a head thing.
Yes. Okay, so really feeling it in your gut and in your heart.
Yeah. Feeling the tightness here. So my anxiety sits here in my solar plexus,
right.
And then feeling that just loosen, and then that tightness isn't there anymore. I say tightness, but it's not a tightness. It's just like a pent up something.
Yes.
And then feeling that pent upness evaporate. And I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, we're there.
Use yourself. Ding!
Yeah, use yourself.
I love that. I think I'm going to use that. Abby, one last question before we wrap up. I wanted to find out, so now you kind of living future self, you are in a beautiful space, you're doing what you love. Do you put any boundaries in place in terms of how much work you do? Because when you like what you do, you can overdo it. Or maybe you like the Karoo too much and you let the work slide a bit. Do you have any boundaries in place?
Yeah, and it's something that I have to continually be intentional with. When I was in the city for the 10 years in Cape Town, the boundary didn't exist, and I would wake up from 7 a.m. and if I wasn't out shooting, I was at my laptop. I could easily sit there for 14 hours from 7 a.m, like into my husband. It took my husband complaining that I needed to walk away from my computer and turn off and actually have a conversation with him at least once in the day, like that's how bad it was.
Yeah.
A little bit to the degree I've gone the other way now. Like I said, I've got inbox issues. I don't dip into my inbox as much as I would like to, just because it weighs on me, because I know that it's not being addressed. But I'm also more forgiving of, if I'm not feeling it, I'll get to it. And if it's important enough, somebody will find another way of getting. Inbox is not the only means of communicating with me. There are other means of communicating with me. And if you're really determined and if something's really urgent, you'll find another way. Possibly not the best attitude to have, but yeah. So so I am my memory is real, and I keep saying this, and every time I say it, my friends say, "Stop saying that because you're perpetuating it." But I don't have the best memory. I should probably get that checked out. So I have to make lists. I do have to make little task things, and because there's a lot of ideas, and that's probably more what it is that it's very, very crowded in here. Rather than bad memory, it's just unorganized and very things all over the place. So I have to have a central place, and I've tried writing in diaries, but then I forget which diary I wrote in, and that kind of thing. So I need a central place, and it needs to be that I can access it on any device, doesn't matter where I am. So I've become quite particular about my Google Calendar, my Google Tasks. And then ticking through them, and then tying a task to a time pocket.
Okay.
I don't want to say limit, because that's like that's restricting, but a pocket of time where I focus my energy on that. Because I have an interesting relationship with time as well. So time is a boundary that I have had to navigate as well, like how long a task is is going to take me, how long I think it's going to take me versus how long it actually takes me.
Right.
And being quite intentional about that and assigning a pocket of time to a particular task. And then my boundary for my morning routine, I'm almost religious about. I need to do that at least 3 times a week, if not every morning. Some mornings it's just not practical to. I have found it a lot more easy to do out here because I can go and sit out in the garden and do it. But if I don't get to do that in the morning, then I at least do like a practice. I just send to myself and do practices which I can do at my desk. So I'm very mindful of, creating a space in my head that it's not tied to a specific location. And that boundary of, hang on, before I get wrapped up in this thing that I'm doing, let me just take a moment and breathe and do these things. I'm a recovering people pleaser. So I have had to put in a boundary and be okay with disappointing people and be okay with saying no to people, and then be okay with asserting, actually, what you want isn't necessarily what I want. And so let's find the common ground here. And so that's an ongoing thing. Those are the boundaries that come up for me.
Very, very cool. And I think many people, myself particularly, can relate to many of those. I'm definitely glad that you're not sitting at your computer for 14 hours a day. That sounds horrible. So I'm really glad that your life shifted.
It sounds horrible, but I loved it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed what I was doing,
Yeah. Just maybe wasn't good for you.
Just not good for my health, yeah.
Yeah, tricky. Oh, thank you, Abby. It's been absolutely amazing talking to you. I love this journey that you've gone on, and I'm so glad that you're going to be dragging other women with you and helping build, I think, more beauty from the inside out, and see through your lens. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat to me, and we will hopefully chat soon.
Thank you. Thanks for this awesome conversation. I love chatting like this about business and life. So thanks for the invite.
Pleasure. Thank you.